That's it. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, 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 yadadai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai.
Because two gifted educators, Rabbis Lori Forman-Jacobi and Jessica Minnen, thought hard about what it really means to become a bar and bat mitzvah, and created a ritual this morning that reflects that thinking and that wisdom in a unique and a special way. It's happening because your parents took a chance. Thank you for being our guinea pigs in this first year, and were willing, even eager, to give you an opportunity to take your place in Jewish life in a new and in a creative way. And most of all, it's happening because each one of you spent this last year engaged in one group of questions. What does it mean to be a Jew? What does it mean to be part of the Jewish people? What do I need to know to be part of this people? And how can I strengthen the Jewish people and in so doing, help repair the world?
Thank you, Rabbi Levitt. Brit Atid has several parts to it, and we've learned together over the course of the year. And one of the core parts is the one-on-one learning I've been able to engage with each of these students. We've talked about a variety of topics. We've talked about Jewish history, Jewish culture, value system, the Torah, the narratives that compel us to connect to our past and ask meaningful questions about our future. And each one of these students, each one of these participants has prepared a teaching, a Brit Atid teaching to share with you today that reflects on the portion of the Torah closest to their birthday or to the celebration of their B'nai Mitzvah. It is a pleasure. I am so proud to begin to call up these students to share their Brit Atid teaching with you. And we are going to begin with Alicia Alonso.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming today. My parsha, or portion, is in the third book of the Torah. The name of this book is Leviticus, which comes from the tribe of Levi. Everyone in the tribe of Levi, or all of the Levites, make up the priestly class. This means that they are responsible to help with any temple service, from cleaning up ashes after an offering to making sure everything is in its correct place. The Kohanim are the high priests. They are the ones who actually make the offerings to God. Aaron is the first of all Kohans, all of the high priests. He is also Moses' brother. Leviticus takes place when the Jews are still in the middle of the desert, and it is about their journey to the promised lands and the laws that the Kohans need to follow. Through the Brit Atid process, I have in fact come closer to my Jewish identity. I have opened myself up and learned. In some ways, I have made myself more vulnerable. My portion, and in fact the whole Torah, teaches that also. It is worth the risk to offer and get close to people and things. For example, right after the deaths of his two sons, Aaron has to go make sacrifices himself in the same place that his sons were just killed.
The heroes of Shalach, Caleb and Joshua, were the only 2 foot soldiers that were willing to take risks and move forward. They saw the land and its inhabitants and still felt that the Jews would be successful in the new land, just like God had promised. They had courage and self-confidence and were optimistic about the future. They believed in themselves and the people around them, and they put their faith in God to bring them safely into the land of Israel. However, the 2 things I believe that separate an optimist from a pessimist is their bravery and YOLO attitude. For everyone here over 15, YOLO means you only live once. I see myself today as an optimistic person because I like to meet new people, explore, and try new things, except food. I still can't eat my veggies. So I believe it's good to be an optimistic person because you should always go into the future positively.
Our next participant who will share his Torah is Noah Grennert.
Welcome, my name's Noah Grennert, and this is going to be pretty important throughout my speech today. So, the first thing I thought when I saw my Torah portion was, oh, it's just a list of names. Why is this in the Torah? Why do I need to know a bunch of people's names? Who are these people? What is in a name? In order to answer those questions, I've spent the past 9 months learning about my Torah portion, God, Jewish culture and history, and what it has to do with me. What I understand from this list is that it unites the past and the future and teaches us what we should choose to become. To solve this mystery, I looked to my Torah portion, Vayigash. It tells the end of the story of Joseph. A quick recap. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers because their father, Jacob, favored Joseph. He ended up going to jail and interpreted people's dreams. The Pharaoh had a dream which Joseph took to mean that there would be 7 years of good harvest in Egypt and 7 years of famine.
My Torah portion is Bereshit, the first portion in the Torah. I really connected with the story of Cain and Abel because I related to it in so many ways. I am so close to my sister, and I always will be. Just like Cain and Abel before, one of them killed the other one. They had a friendship. They were the only 2 people in the world other than their parents. And sometimes that's what Ruby and I feel like.
Before I began this learning, I didn't believe in God. I thought that my individual self was greater than anything else. And that if there was a God, God would just let us be who we are. When I first met Rabbi Jess, I told her that I didn't believe in God. And she said that was okay, that I could believe or not believe, and that would be a good place to start. We learned that God isn't a he. He can't be simplified down into a pronoun. God is the force that holds us up, the force that gives us our individual self. And that I think is what makes God part of the greater good.
During the year, I've studied my Torah portion, and I identified a verse that is very important to me. We've also talked about my life as well as history, faith, God, stress, and generally how hard it is to be a 7th grader. At first, I did not think that this was going to be worth my time, but now I realize that there is a connection between Jewish learning and learning about who I am. I didn't know much about Judaism before this year, but now I'm standing up here making a speech about it. Judaism has become a part of my life.
The Israelites spend 40 years wandering in the wilderness, and my Torah portion takes place towards the end of that period. How would you feel if you were wandering around without a permanent home for 40 years? I think it might start to mess with my mind, and I might start thinking a lot about life and death. And that's exactly what my Torah portion is about.
When an Israelite came into contact with death, whether it was a dead body or a grave, they needed to make themselves pure again before returning to the community.
What makes that water special? The water is mixed with ashes from freshly slaughtered red heifer, a perfect red-colored cow. I think the red heifer might represent all the perfect qualities and things we want to remember about life, even in death. It is also interesting that the water that allows us to return to the community and daily life actually comes from death. But what does this have to do with me? On the surface, nothing. I'm not an Israelite walking in the desert, and we no longer practice biblical Judaism. We don't make sacrifices anymore, but as I said before, laws that don't make sense can actually make meaning in my life.
One thing I like about Judaism is that it doesn't only teach one thing about death. In Judaism, God is described as Mechayeh HaMetim, a force that could give life back to the dead. But are we literally supposed to believe that God can bring people back to life? How come my great-grandma is still buried in New Jersey? If it's not supposed to be literal, and God doesn't bring people back to life, what does it mean? I think it means that by bringing people back to life, they are mourned for, talked about, thought about, and dreamed about. Their legacy lives on while their body's still buried in the ground. Whether or not you believe that God can bring people back to life or that there is life after death, it is our responsibility to realize that our dead loved ones' legacies live on in our thoughts and our dreams, not necessarily in real life.
So I want everyone to take a moment to look at this incredible community, this incredible circle of Torah and circle of families and friends that we've created here today. Unrolling a Torah doesn't happen very often. And seeing a Torah, don't raise your hand, but how many of you have seen a Torah unscrolled like this before?
תח ליבי